Losing never bothered me the way average does. A loss leaves evidence behind you. Study it, fix it, move on. Average operates differently. It rents space inside your routine, borrows your voice, starts finishing your sentences, until one day you wake up defending limits you would have laughed at a year ago. That scares me. Not because it's dramatic, because it's quiet. A bad habit usually announces itself. Mediocrity walks through the front door carrying groceries and somehow ends up on the lease. The gym looked exactly the same when I came back. The problem wasn't the building, the problem was noticing how quickly comfort recognized my address. 3 weeks away, my body started acting like consistency was optional. Dangerous, not weak. Weakness is obvious. Comfort knows how to dress itself. That's why people trust it. A fighter misses enough sessions and eventually starts confusing preservation with intelligence. Suddenly every shortcut sounds responsible. Every compromise arrives disguised as maturity. Every lowered standard introduces itself like a friend. I've seen that story before. The ending sucks. By the second hour I wasn't fighting fatigue. Fatigue's honest, it tells you exactly what it wants. I was fighting negotiation, a voice calculating discounts on effort, trying to convince me that 80% deserves the same respect as 100. That's the voice I'd rather choke than listen to. A bag hanging from a chain doesn't care about intentions, neither does a stopwatch. Both have ruined more fantasies than any opponent ever could. That's why I trust them. Nobody in this room owes me belief. Nobody should. Results have better judgment than people. The rounds kept exposing little debts I've been postponing. Footwork, reaction sharpness, nothing catastrophic. That's what made it annoying. Disasters are easy to identify. Small declines travel under the radar until they start charging interest. A lot of careers die that way, not with failure, with permission. By evening the body settled down and the standards got louder. Good standards are supposed to be difficult. Anything capable of dragging me toward a better version of myself should feel inconvenient. Otherwise everybody would keep it. Tomorrow's waiting. So is the gap. Only one of them gets bigger if I ignore it. Screaming my name. Yeah. Whole city screaming my name like I should've unpacked my bags. Crazy timing. The second they started calling this success, I stopped seeing it that way. A packed gym turns empty fast when your target changes. Used to dream about being the guy everybody came to watch. Now I'm watching footage from people who don't know I exist. Different altitude, different gravity, exactly where my attention belongs. Training felt easy today. Worst feeling in the world, nothing dangerous about hard work. Hard work announces itself. Easy slips a knife between your ribs while shaking your hand. I don't trust it, never will. A younger version of me would've framed this moment. More respect, more support, more opportunities. Back then every door looked important. Now I'm checking what's behind the building. The rounds kept flying by. Good sign, time moves fast whenever the challenge is too small. A heavyweight clipped me clean, there was sparring, and my first thought was in anger. Finally, somebody brought new information that's worth more than compliments. People keep asking what I'm chasing. Wrong question. The real question is what I'm running from. Stagnation, familiarity, the version of me that starts introducing ceilings as if they're sky. That guy doesn't get a vote. Never has, never will. The session ended, everybody started talking weekend plans, food, recovery, normal stuff. My mind was already 3 fights ahead, standing in a venue I've never seen, hearing a crowd I've never met, trying to solve a problem that hasn't arrived yet. That's usually when I know I'm moving in the right direction. Nothing around me feels finished. Good. Finished things stop growing. I'm trying to leave fingerprints on places that don't exist yet. Yeah. Tape wrapped tight around both hands while my eyes stay busy somewhere else. Everybody loves the visible part of preparation. The running, the rounds. The sweat hit it concrete. Nobody cares about the weak angle hidden inside a habit that's usually the thing collecting interest. I watch the footage again, then again. Not because I missed something, because confidence misses things. A mistake survives longer when it feels familiar. That's what makes it dangerous. A fighter gets clipped by a punch he never respected. The team loses because somebody assumed the lock was already checked. Trouble rarely arrives disguised as a surprise. Most of the time it enters through a door everybody stop looking at. that thought, follow me into training. The combinations were sharp, good. Sharp combinations don't repair blind spots. Conditioning felt strong, good. Strong lungs don't solve bad decisions. The session kept offering evidence that things were working. I kept searching for evidence that something wasn't. Different job, different reward. A lot of athletes trained to become dangerous. I'm trying to become difficult to expose. There's a difference. Danger can overwhelm people. Exposure ends careers. Halfway through sparring, I caught a reaction that arrived a fraction late. Nobody else noticed. The round continued, nothing happened. Still bothered me. Tiny delays grow teeth when ignored. That's how weaknesses survive. They spend months pretending to be details. The room got louder as the evening went on. My attention narrowed. A coach called it overthinking once. Maybe the alternative sounds worse. History has a long list of talented people who trusted momentum to carry them across gaps they never bothered to fix. I'm not interested in joining them. The final bell echoed through the gym. Most people heard relief. I heard unfinished work. There's always another layer, another adjustment, another possibility worth checking. That's the agreement. No one's coming to close the gaps for me. No one's coming to notice them first. That's my job. Tomorrow starts there again. A lot of noise follows fight week. Predictions spread faster than combinations. Somebody's calling it an easy night while somebody else is building a disaster before the first bell even rings. Neither one has much to do with me. I drove to the gym before sunrise and spent most of the trip watching traffic lights change colors. Strange thing to notice, maybe red doesn't panic as green is coming. Green doesn't celebrate cause I'm red just left. The jobs stay the same, training felt normal, that's usually a good sign. A body that's trying to impress you tends a high summer mind just showed up, handled the work and kept moving. A younger fighter asked whether I get nervous before competition. Of course, the trick isn't removing nerves, the trick is refusing to hand them authority. Fear makes suggestions, so does confidence. Neither one gets to touch the steering wheel. By midday I was sparring with a guy who throws every punch like he's arguing with the universe. Strong athlete, dangerous too. Halfway through the round he started chasing moments instead of creating them. That always changes the fight. People become predictable the second they need something to happen. The open arrived a minute later. Nothing dramatic, just timing. Most advantages look small until they're repeated. The session ended and everyone started discussing outcomes that haven't happened yet. I packed my gear and left. I've never understood the rush. The result shows up when it shows up. Speculation burns energy that could be spent preparing outside. The parking lot was almost empty. A cool wind moved through the street. Tomorrow's opponent was probably doing the same thing somewhere else. Good. A fight gets more interesting when both people take it seriously. I headed home without replaying the rounds. The footage exists if I need it. The lesson exists if I earned it. For now the work is done. Tomorrow can introduce itself when it arrives. The worst thing that ever happened to some fighters wasn't a loss. It was getting everything they asked for. A bigger check, a better apartment. People remembering the name before introductions. Funny how quickly comfort starts acting like a teammate. That's why I don't trust it. Comfort never tells you to quit. Too smart for that. It just starts editing your urgency. One small cut at a time. You stop running the extra mile because recovery sounds responsible. You skip around because tomorrow exists. You lower the standard by an inch and call it balance. Months later you're staring at a version of yourself that still looks dangerous from a distance, while something important has already left the building. I've seen it happen enough times to stay suspicious. The gym was cold this morning. Good. A little discomfort keeps the mind awake. The bag felt heavy. Good. Everything's tell the truth. My legs complain halfway through conditioning. Also good. Anything worth listening to eventually runs out of excuses. A lot of athletes spend their careers trying to escape struggle. I'm trying to keep mine nearby. Struggle remembers my name better than success does. Success like celebration, struggle like appointments. One of them made me useful, the other one takes pictures. Late in the session I caught myself wanting the clock to move faster. That thought lasted about 3 seconds, long enough. Danger doesn't always arrive wearing gloves. Sometimes it shows up sounding reasonable. That's usually when I pay attention. The final round landed harder than the first, exactly how it should be. If energy disappears the moment things become difficult, then it was never energy, it was excitement. Different animal. When training ended I stayed behind and cleaned up my corner. Nothing symbolic, just a habit, the kind built by people who expect to be back tomorrow. Outside the city looked comfortable, warm lights, easy conversations, soft seats. All of it will still be there next week. The hunger, whoa, that's why I protect it. Some fighters chase victory. I'm chasing the version of myself that never gets full. Yeah. People love options. Makes life feel safer. A second plan, a backup route. Something soft to land on when things stop going their way. I used to think the same, then I noticed every promise I broke had an unlocked door nearby. Funny how discipline gets weaker whenever escape feels convenient, so I stop decorating exits. A fight camp doesn't ask for certainty anyway. The alarm goes off before daylight. My body argues the case for staying under the blanket, and the conversation ends. Their arguments only work when both sides get a vote. Mine don't. The gym fills up slowly. Some athletes arrive carrying goals. I prefer commitments. Goals can move, commitments collect consequences. That's a useful difference. The rounds start. Someone misses a combination and laughs it off. Someone else starts calculating how much effort remains. My attention goes somewhere else. I keep thinking about how fragile motivation really is. A bad night of sleep can damage it. A cold morning can reduce it. One disappointing result can send it looking for another address. Depending on motivation, feels like building a house on a frozen lake. Looks stable until the season changes. Commitment survives weather. That's why I trust it. Halfway through training, my shoulders felt heavy enough to negotiate. They lost. A difficult session isn't a signal, it's the entry fee. The same thing happens every campaign arrives and starts acting important. I let it talk, the work keeps moving. By afternoon the room smells like effort and old leather. Familiar place, familiar feeling, nothing heroic about it. Most progress happens before anybody decides it's worth noticing. That's fine. Attention never threw a punch for me. The final round dragged longer than I wanted. Good. Anything worth keeping usually stays longer than expected. When training ended, I sat alone for a minute, looking at the empty ring. Not because I needed inspiration, I was checking for hesitation. Didn't find any. Years ago I stopped asking whether I could handle what's ahead. The answer doesn't matter. Tomorrow is coming either way. Might as well arrive first. Everybody thinks confidence sounds loud. That's probably why they keep missing it. The loudest guy in the room spent 10 minutes explaining why he wasn't worried. I nodded, smiled, wrapped my hands, and kept my thoughts where they belonged. Some things get weaker when exposed to air. I learned that early. A doubt spoken too often starts believing it's important. A fear introduced to enough people begins asking for attention. Better to keep certain visitors off the guest list. Fight week always changes the atmosphere. Messages arrive from people who suddenly remember your number. Predictions start floating around like balloons, looking for a place to land. I answer most of them the same way. Feeling good. Simple sentence. Useful sentence, not always a complete sentence. The road work finished just before sunrise. My lungs were working overtime and my mind was trying to rehearse scenarios that hadn't happened yet. Strange habit. The body usually lives in the present. The imagination prefers trespassing. I don't let it stay long. Energy is expensive. A lot of athletes spend this proving they're ready. I save mine for becoming ready. There's a difference. By afternoon I was moving around the ring with a sparring partner who'd never stop coming forward. Every step he took asked a question. Every angle I chose became an answer. Nothing dramatic, just information moving back and forth at high speed. That's what fighting feels like from the inside. People watching from outside see courage. Most of the time I'm seeing details, distance, balance, timing. Tiny things deciding large outcomes. The session ended and somebody told me I look relaxed. I thanked him, no reason to complicate it. Maybe he was right, maybe he wasn't. Calm isn't always the absence of pressure. Sometimes it's pressure wearing a suit. The city lights were still on when I headed home. Tomorrow's opponent was probably dealing with his own version of the same storm. Good. A fight becomes more interesting when both people have something to hide. I unlocked the door, set my gear down and looked at the schedule for the next day. Still there, exactly where I left it. That helped. The work never asks how I feel, it just waits. I like that. The funny part about expectations is how often they arrive gift wrapped. A compliment turns into a responsibility. A victory becomes a schedule. One good performance suddenly starts collecting future obligations. Nobody warns you about that. A belt changed hands 6 months ago, and people still talk about it like I'm carrying it everywhere. Truth is, the thing spends most of its life sitting in a room while strangers build stories around it. That's their hobby. I already have one, training. The gym felt lighter than usual today. Not easier, lighter, different thing. Some days the work feels like a conversation instead of a test. Those are my favorite sessions. No proving, no performing, just movement. A coach once told me I should start acting more like a champion. Interesting advice, never figured out what that meant. The best rounds I've ever had happened when I forgot who I was supposed to be. The worst ones usually started with an image to protect. Images are expensive, they demand maintenance. The ring doesn't care about branding. A jab doesn't care about reputation. Distance ignores resumes. Reality has always been refreshingly rude. That's probably why I trust it. Halfway through sparring, I stopped thinking about winning exchanges and started enjoying the rhythm of solving them. Everything slowed down, not physically, the pace stayed high. My attention just stopped chasing approval. There's freedom in that. People spend years trying to earn a crown they never asked for, then spend even longer trying not to lose it. Sounds exhausting. I'd rather keep my hands free. The final bell landed exactly where it needed to. No celebration, no speech, nothing dramatic waiting at the end of the workout. Just another day spent getting better at something I genuinely enjoy. That has always felt more valuable than being impressive. When I left the gym, a kid asked for a picture. I said yes, nice moment. Then we both went back to our lives. That's usually the healthiest way to handle attention. Tomorrow morning the alarm will ring. The gloves won't remember today. Good, neither will I. The kid held the door for me on the way into the gym. Couldn't have been older than 19. Fast hands, good footwork. Still believes recovery is something that happens automatically. Must be nice. I remember owning a body like that. Back then I treated time the way rich people treat electricity. Always there, never counted. Now I notice different things. The extra minute between rounds, how long a bruise sticks around, the sound my knees make when the weather changes. It's mine, nothing tragic, just information. A lot of athletes spend energy pretending the clock isn't running. Strange strategy, the clock wins every undefeated season. Might as well learn its habits. Training started late because traffic backed up half the city. 10 years ago I would've complained. Today I just started shadow boxing in the parking lot. No refund coming for those 20 minutes. Best to use them, that's probably what changed the most. I don't chase perfect conditions anymore. Perfect conditions have terrible attendance. The work showed up, so did I. Good enough. Halfway through sparring, I slipped a jab and caught myself smiling. Not because the move was impressive, because it used to take me 3 attempts. Little victories age differently. Young fighters celebrate potential. Older fighters appreciate efficiency. Both are valuable, only one survives long enough to become the other. The rounds ended, people check phones. I check tomorrow, old habit. The future keeps shrinking into smaller pieces. Months become weeks, weeks become days, days become mornings. Funny thing is, urgency gets clearer when the horizon moves closer, not darker, clearer. Driving home, I passed a restaurant that wasn't there last year. The city keeps changing without asking permission. Makes sense, it's not waiting for anybody either. Neither am I. Maybe I started later than I wanted. Maybe I wasted time somewhere along the way. Neither one helps with tomorrow's workout. Tomorrow only cares whether I show up. I've always liked simple rules. This one still works. Yeah. I knew exactly what would happen. That's the embarrassing part. Nothing about it was unexpected. The mistake had my address saved. We met too many times for introductions. A coach can fix technique. A training partner can expose bad reactions. Some problems walk into the gym wearing your face. Those take longer. The session started clean, sharp movement, good rhythm. Everything looked professional from the outside. Then an old habit came back like it still had a locker here. No warning, no melodramatic entrance, just a familiar decision wearing different clothes. Funny how the worst mistakes keep changing outfits while keeping the same name. I've thrown thousands of punches, a few patterns still know how to drag me somewhere I never planned to go. That's what makes them dangerous, not strength recognition. The body learns quickly, the mind gets sentimental. A lot of damage survives because it feels familiar. Halfway through sparring, I chased a shot that wasn't there. The opening looked real for a second. A second is expensive. By the time I realized it, leather was already heading the other direction. Nothing serious, still annoying. I wasn't surprised by the punch. I was annoyed that an old version of me managed to borrow my gloves again. People talk about growth like it's a straight road. Maybe for them, mine behaves more like a neighborhood. Every few months I run into somebody I thought moved away. Bad timing, bad discipline, bad decisions. Different faces, same family, the rounds kept moving. So did I. One adjustment here, one correction there. No speeches, no promises. I've broken enough of those already. The only thing I trust now is repetition. Bad habits using good habits can too. Might as well give the right side better numbers. Training ended, sweat everywhere. Silence finally replacing noise. I packed my gear and caught my reflection in a dark window. Still here, good. The fight was never against that sparring partner anyway. He just happened to be standing nearby when it happened.
The strange thing about responsibility is how quietly it arrives. Nobody walked into the gym and handed it to me. There wasn't a ceremony, no speech, no moment that looked important at the time. One day people started looking in my direction when things got difficult. That's usually how it happens. A younger fighter missed training this week, family problem, real one, not an excuse. Another guy showed up carrying a shoulder that clearly needed rest. The coach was dealing with 3 problems at once before the first round even started. Normal day, most teams are held together by ordinary days. The dramatic moments get all the attention later. The work started, heavy pace, nobody saying much. You can learn a lot from silence. Silence tells you who's tired, who's distracted, who's carrying something they haven't talked about yet. The rounds kept moving and I noticed people checking my reactions whenever things got ugly. Not because I'm the best fighter in the room, because somebody has to act like the room isn't on fire. Useful role, not always fun. Halfway through sparring, I took a clean shot that snapped my head back harder than expected. The younger guys looked more concerned than I was, made me laugh. A bad moment isn't an emergency, it's information. The next exchange started before the previous one finished mattering. That's usually how fighting works. The gym finally emptied near sunset. Gloves stacked, light shutting down one section at a time. A place looks different once everybody leaves, more honest somehow. I sat near the ring and listened to the building settle into silence. Tomorrow's schedule still looked crowded. Good. Empty schedules make people creative in dangerous ways. A lot of athletes chase freedom. I've never had much interest in it. Give me a task, give me a reason, give me something that needs carrying. I'll figure out the rest while moving. The lock clicked behind me when I left. Nobody was watching. Nobody needed to. Some jobs stop existing when attention disappears. This one doesn't. That's why I trust it. Yeah. The footage didn't lie. Annoying habit. Always shows up on time, always remembers details I'd rather forget. I sat alone after training with a bottle of water and a screen full of evidence. The punch wasn't the problem, missing it wasn't the problem either. The story I told myself afterward bothered me more. Amazing what the mind can manufacture when pride gets involved. The bad angle suddenly becomes bad luck. Poor preparation starts dressing up as circumstances. Before long, responsibility is standing outside in the rain while excuses are eating dinner at the table. I've seen that trick before. Used it too. That's how I recognized it. The gym felt heavier the next day, not emotionally, more specific than that. Every drill seemed connected to something I've been avoiding. Funny how honesty works, ignore it long enough and it starts leaving reminders everywhere. A coach corrected a small mistake during bad work. Nothing major. Most expensive problems aren't. They survive because nobody feels embarrassed enough to deal with them early. The rounds kept moving, so did the evidence. A reaction half a beat late, a lazy exit after a combination. Attention wandering somewhere didn't belong. None of it looked dramatic. That's why it mattered. Disasters get noticed, patterns get repeated. One of them ruins more careers. Halfway through the session, reaching for an explanation. The explanation sounded reasonable. Reasonable isn't always true. That saved me some time. By evening the workout was over, and the excuses that mostly run out of places to hide. I wasn't looking for comfort anyway. Comfort has terrible eyesight. It struggles to recognize what's actually happening. Truth seems fine. Truth just isn't very polite. Outside the gym, the city carried on with its business cars moving, people talking, lights changing. None of it cared whether I learned anything. Fair enough, the lesson belonged to me. So did the mistake. Tomorrow gets both. The punch that costs you the fight usually lands long before fight night. Most people never see it. They point at the exchange, the knockdown, the scorecards. I keep looking further back. A missed hour, an unnecessary conversation, a promise to myself that got renegotiated for no good reason. Those leave fingerprints too. The city was already awake when I started road work. Delivery trucks on the streets, storefront lights blinked themselves into existence. Somebody was arguing into a phone 3 blocks away, while another person rushed toward a train that wasn't waiting. Everybody chasing something, everybody selling something, attention included. Mine almost got stolen twice before breakfast. A notification buzzed, ignored it. An old headline resurfaced, kept moving. Distraction rarely arrives looking dangerous. It prefers ordinary clothes. That's why it survives. Training started at noon, the bag swung, the clock moved. Work accumulated, simple arrangement. The fighter doesn't always lose focus in dramatic ways. Sometimes concentration leaks out through tiny cracks until an entire afternoon disappears without producing anything worth keeping. That bothers me more than hard rounds. Hard rounds pay rent, scattered attention burns money. By sparring time the room felt crowded. Voices, music, instructions, opinions, most of them harmless. Still, every sound wanted a seat at the table. I only needed one chair occupied. The guy across from me stepped in aggressively and the exchange sped up. His hands weren't the problem, my reaction wasn't the problem. The temptation to rush with them almost became the problem. Almost. Fights have rhythms, cities have rhythms, people have rhythms. The trick isn't matching every one of them. The trick is deciding which rhythm deserves access. Late evening settled over the gym, gloves hit the floor. Conversations drifted toward plans for tomorrow. I packed my gears slowly, no urgency left. The important decisions had already happened. Most victories never receive applause. They happen in small moments where nobody notices attention. Choosing a side, I stepped outside. Traffic still moving, screens still glowing. The same invitations waiting, they'll be there in the morning too. My focus doesn't need to attend every party. Go! The crowd started warming up before I did. Funny thing about noise, some people hear pressure. I hear a countdown. The arena lights rolled across the ring while my gloves were still half-laced. Somebody backstage looked nervous enough to fight the floor instead of an opponent. Different experience for different people, I guess. I've never understood hiding from attention. If thousands of eyes decided to spend the night looking in my direction, the least I can do is give them something worth remembering. That's part of the deal. Fight camp builds the engine. Fight night gets to drive it. Music hit. The tunnel opened. Energy moved through the building like electricity. Looking for metal, I smile before the first punch. A habit. Big moments tend to bring out the best version of me. The bell rang and everything got simpler. No audience, no cameras, no predictions, just time and distance. Opportunity. The basics always survive the noise. Halfway through the fight, I caught a glimpse of the crowd rising before I landed clean. Interesting reaction. They saw impact come in a second before it arrived. Confidence works like that. People feel it early. A lot of athletes spend years trying to avoid mistakes. I spend more time trying to express myself. The difference matters. Fear makes performances smaller. Freedom gives them room to breathe. Another exchange opened up and I stepped into it. No hesitation. The moment already belonged to somebody, might as well be me. The later rounds fell louder. Perfect, a quiet room never pulled anything special out of me. Every cheer added another layer to the atmosphere. Every second carried more color, more movement, more life. By the final bell, the arena looked brighter than it had before the fight started. Maybe the lights never changed, maybe I did. Either way, the feeling stayed with me. Walking back through the tunnel, sweat still running down my arms. I heard people arguing over who won the best round. Wrong conversation. The best part happened long before the scorecards. It happened the second the spotlight arrived, and I felt completely at home. The championship belt looks smaller every year. Not physically. The measurements stay the same. My perspective keeps changing. There was a time when holding one felt like reaching the edge of the map. Then I met people who owned 5 later. I met people who built gyms filled with champions. Eventually, I realized the most interesting people in combat sports weren't collecting trophies. They were creating environments where trophies became normal. That stayed with me. The gym opened before sunrise. A few fighters were already there, young, talented, hungry. I watched them work while finishing my raps. Raw ability has a certain shine to it. Potential always does. The difficult part comes later when talent starts negotiating with comfort. Some win that argument, some don't. My own session started an hour later. Heavy rounds, technical work, conditioning. Nothing unusual for a fight camp. The difference was where my attention kept going. A lot of athletes focus on the next victory. Useful goal, too small for me. I want systems, I want habits that survive bad days. I want standards that remain standing after motivation leaves the building. Those things scale. A title can change hands overnight. Infrastructure takes longer, so does legacy. Halfway through sparring, I realized I wasn't thinking about the opponent. I was thinking about sustainability. Strange word for a fighter, important word too. Anybody can empty the tank once. The real challenge is building an engine that keeps showing up year after year. The rounds ended, sweat covered the floor. People started heading home. I stayed behind to watch the next group train. Different fighters, same dream. The room felt bigger than a gym. A gym teaches punches, a coach teaches standards. One produces results, the other keeps producing them. By the time I stepped outside, the city was already moving. Restaurants opening, traffic building, businesses waking up. Everybody constructing something. Some build moments, some build structures. I've always preferred structures. Moments fade, structures keep collecting evidence long after you're gone. Yeah. Spotlights dripping gold across the canvas. My shadow reaches centering before I do. 20,000 people standing shoulder to shoulder. Phones raised high enough to look like stars trapped inside a building. Heavy night, light work, the tunnel opens. Cold air behind me, fire in front. Every step carries years that never made headlines. Road work under gray skies, empty gyms, locked doors. Nobody bought tickets for those parts. Tonight gets all the credit, that's fine. The crown never came with an audience anyway. Camera flashes bounce off the ropes. Championship banners hanging overhead like old war stories. A kid in the front row points before I even touch the ring. I remember that feeling looking at somebody larger than life. Funny thing, most giants are built from repetitive mornings. The bell cuts through the arena, sharp, clean, beautiful sound. An entire building holds its breath. I don't. Breathing gets easier when you've already paid for the moment. First exchange, leather cracks, the crowd jumps. Second exchange, the crowd gets louder. Third exchange, silence, everybody waiting to see what happens next. So am I. The difference is I've been here before. Round after round, the arena starts shrinking. The noise fades first, then the lights, then the distance between thought and action. By the championship rounds, the place feels smaller than the gyms where this journey started. Strange transformation, thousands disappear. One opponent remains, one task remains, one standard remains. Sweat falls from my gloves like rain, sliding off marble statues. Bright the work, the final bell arrives. Gold confetti, raised arms, commentators searching for perfect words. Some victories are too large for explanations. I walk across the ring one last time. Slow pace, no rush. Kings don't sprint through their own palace. Outside, the city keeps glowing inside. Another memory joins the collection. Tomorrow morning, the roads will still be empty. I'll be there, crown on, head down, moving forward. Shoes hit pavement before the sun figured out where it wanted to be. Good. Nah, forget that. The city can wake up whenever it wants. I'm already 3 streets ahead, lungs burning through cold air, cutting corners like I owe somebody money. Traffic lights changing, colors behind me didn't ask, didn't wait, didn't matter. A fight gets announced, everybody starts building predictions. I start moving, different hobby, the route twist through alleys, over bridges, packed buildings, covered in promises nobody plans to keep. A dog starts chasing me for half a block, almost makes me laugh. Almost. The pace climbs, the thoughts disappear, that's usually the trait. People keep searching for clarity while sitting still, while strategy, my best decisions show up out of breath. By the time I reach the gym, sweat already dripping from my sleeves. The room feels slow, not weak, slow. Heavy bags swinging like clocks, coaches talking, music redolent, old speakers, everything moving at a different speed than the one in my chest. Raps on, mouthpiece in, let's go. The first round turns messy immediately. Perfect, clean players rarely survive contact anyway. A jab misses, a hook lands, footwork breaks apart and rebuilds itself 3 seconds later. The fight keeps changing shape, so do I. That's the fun part. Midway through sparring, instinct grabs the steering wheel. No committee meeting, no debate. A gap appears, I take it, a lane opens. I fly through it, momentum loves people who don't overcomplicate. Introductions, the final bell arrives. While my pulse is still sprinting somewhere ahead of me. Everybody starts slowing down. I don't, the body stops, the engine keeps running. Outside, the night air feels electric. Store signs glowing, cars sliding through intersections. The whole city looks like it's headed somewhere. Same, tomorrow can't explain itself later. Right now, I just want distance behind me and motion in front of me.
Blue corner talking loud. Red corner talking louder. The ring doesn't care. Canvas stretched tight. Lights hanging low. 1,000 conversations stop when the bell hits. Mine too. Big gloves, heavy steps. The kind that make water move before the ship arrives. My opponent circles, I don't. The center belongs to whoever can afford it. I've been paying rent here for years. His jab touches air, my shoulder touches his plans. Different impact, the crowd feels it first. A heavyweight fight isn't speed against speed, it's geography. One man decides where the room ends. The other man learns it. Ropes behind him, pressure in front. Bad neighborhood, a hook lands. Not clean, doesn't matter. Some punches score points, some punches change behavior. The next minute gets quieter. Feet stop dancing, angles disappear. Every movement starts carrying extra weight, like running through wet cement, like breathing through a closed fist, like finding out the ocean is deeper than it looked from shore. That's where most people panic. That's where I settle in. Sweat drops from my chin. The arena watches, nobody blinks. Heavyweight rounds don't ask for attention, they take it. Another collision, another adjustment, another piece of confidence leaving somebody's body. The bell saves him. Good timing. I would've preferred one more minute. The crowd rises anyway. Too late, the tide already changed. Back to the corner, back to the stool, back to the breathing. Across the ring, a man is searching for answers. Across the ring, I'm searching for water. Deep water. Home field.
The gym looked different after midnight.
not better. Just honest. The vending machine kept humming in the corner like it had something important to say. Nobody listened. Same. My phone lit up 3 times during warm-ups. Still don't know who called. The heavy bag knew where to find me, that's usually enough. A guy asked why I trained so late. Didn't have a good answer, never needed one. Some people like sunlight. I like empty parking lots and keys rattling against metal doors. The building settles into a different rhythm once everybody leaves. Easier to hear your own footsteps. Easier to hear your breathing. Easier to hear whether you're lying to yourself. Jab, step, slip, repeat. The bag swings away, comes back. We understand each other. No audience required. Outside, somebody's posting highlights. Inside, I'm trying to land the same combination cleaner than yesterday. Different game. The clock on the wall keeps moving. I stopped racing it years ago. We're co-workers now. A towel hangs over the ropes. Half a bottle of water sits beside the ring. Nothing cinematic, no dramatic soundtrack. Just another night, becoming useful. The rounds pass quietly. A glove catches the bag exactly where I want it. That feels expensive. Not money, attention. Most people spend theirs everywhere. I keep mine here. The lights shut off one section at a time. The room shrinks. Perfect. Less space for distractions. More space for work. When I finally leave, the streets are almost empty. A bus rolls past, the traffic signal changes for nobody. The city keeps performing. I don't need a stage tonight. The training already happened. That's the part I came for.
The boxing gym remembers people differently than photographs do. Pictures keep faces. The walls keep hours. Every stain on the canvas belonged to somebody's ambition at one point. Most of those names are gone now. The marks stayed. I understand that arrangement. A trophy shelf stood near the entrance when I first walked into this place. Back then, I counted medals. Years later, I started counting absences. Birthday dinners missed, weekend trips declined, phone calls returned too late. Certain victories arrive carrying receipts nobody talks about. The crowd only sees the purchase. The fighter sees the invoice. Rain tapped against the windows during training tonight. Steady rhythm. Almost sounded like fingers drumming on a table while waiting for a decision. Funny how life rarely asks whether you're willing to pay. The bill arrives first. The choice comes afterward. Across the ring, a young fighter moved with the urgency I used to have. Every round felt personal to him. Every exchange looked urgent. I remember that feeling, not because I miss it, because I respect it. Fire starts the journey, something else keeps it going. The gym emptied slowly, one conversation at a time, one locker at a time, one light at a time. Silence settled into the room without asking permission. I sat on the ring apron and looked at the ropes. Thousands of rounds had passed through those 4 sides. Dreams entered. Some survived, some changed shape. A few disappeared completely. None of that made the time worthless. A road doesn't fail because it leads somewhere unexpected. Scars work the same way. People asked whether it was worth it. Strange question. Worth isn't measured at the finish line. Worth is measured by whether you'd make the same choice, knowing the full price. My answer arrived years ago. The gloves beside me were worn, the knuckles faded. The stitching imperfect, still useful. Still trusted. Maybe that's what commitment looks like after enough seasons pass. Not flawless, not untouched, just proven outside. The rain finally stopped. Tomorrow's session was already waiting, somewhere in the dark. So was the cost, so was the reward. I've learned they usually travel together.